Hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Reed from a writer for iFanboy. Today we're talking Grant Morrison, and not talking just Grant Morrison, the writer, we're talking Grant Morrison, the character inside a comic book, which has happened more times than you might think. Now, the first time was back in the late 1980s when Grant was writing the Animal Man series, starring Buddy and his family, and things were going from there. And during the end of the series, there was a shadowy figure who was seen be pulling the strings a bit for Buddy in his life, and that figure in the last issue was revealed to be writer Grant Morrison. Grant appears on the cover as a photograph, and then inside the book as a character. Now, they had been the writer of the book for 26 issues, but Buddy mentions the fact that there have been other ways that he's been depicted before, and Grant has to explain to him that that's how corporate comics work, that not every writer sticks around forever, unfortunately. It's an interesting play between character and writer and God and man. It is a very early take on what Grant would do with metaphysical and metafictional stories later on. Now, because Grant wrote themselves in as a character in the DC Universe, other people could now use that character in the DC Universe, and that's what happened in the pages of Suicide Squad number 58, when John Ostrander and Kim Yale plunked Grant Morrison down right in the middle of the action as a member of the Suicide Squad, where they were a person called the Writer. They never used the term Grant Morrison, but the Writer is definitely supposed to be the same character who met Buddy back in that issue of Animal Man. Now, unfortunately, the Writer got writer's block while using their crazy and interesting laptop to write the story around them, and they were killed, unfortunately. And that was the end of Grant Morrison's time inside the DC Universe, but not quite, because what just happened a very short time ago was Batman Deadpool #1 came out here by both DC and Marvel, and it was here that Grant Morrison wrote the main story of Batman and Deadpool meeting together. And in that story, Grant Morrison again writes themselves into the story, into the narrative, and has an adventure with Batman and Deadpool as they try to get that laptop that killed Grant Morrison back in the issue of Suicide Squad, all of which is referenced in this book in a very interesting and surprising way. I chose this topic, by the way, months ago for this date. It was not because of this appearance in this issue that I chose to talk about this. It's just happenstance, and it's a wonderful way to show I'm vibing with Grant Morrison. Now, it's not just in DC Comics that Grant has appeared as a character. They also appeared in the pages of Simpson Comics all the way back in number 88, written by Gail Simone in this one. And the Simpsons go back to Scotland in this story, and there they are told that Scotland has its own wonderful, rich culture and peoples, including its own comic writers. And then Gail Simone has Grant Morrison and Mark Millar argue about who wrote the better run on X-Men. It's not quite the same as the other appearances, but it's one that I've enjoyed just as much.